sentence I never get. Knowing that situation could get high like a weather get. Man, the kingdom I better get. I'm on the judge and I'm more like a predicate. So all the flaws that I got on my head of it, but that's irrelevant.
How can I ease the pain? How can I ease the pain? Gotta ease the pain, man. Gotta ease the pain. Gotta ease the pain, man. Gotta ease the pain. I've been hurt, I've been betrayed. I welcome it all, cause I'm not afraid.
I'll be going through with the presentation / lesson for today. And as we went into it, this is going to be the third time. The name of the lesson is Jesus died because of what? Oh, dead precedence. And, this topic is being addressed because, for one, it's needful to go over this topic, especially with the times that we're in, because, we can never go wrong with discussing the importance of the Messiah's death and, gaining more clarity. But secondly, we as Israelites, sometimes, we fall victim to being tethered to dogma. And when you go into that word for tethered, it just means, you're connected, you're heavily connected. But, we fall victim to being tethered to dogma. And what ends up happening is that we either will propagate beliefs or understandings that aren't true, that aren't found in the text, or we'll find, some things that we've been taught are unfounded in the text, and we'll drop a belief or a set of beliefs as a whole. And this concept or this understanding is known as throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And real quick, I want to show y'all, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of this saying. It's kind of like a euphemism of some sort. But I want to show y'all this, right? Because when you look it up, it kind of just brings it home. But Ak, if you can you just read the highlighted portion?
Yes, sir. It says, discard something valuable along with something not wanted. Oh, that's the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. So, so just a very easy example to understand. You want to get rid of the bath water that's inside the mechanism that you're using to wash the baby. And so imagine you just toss the baby out alongside the bath water. That's like, it's not something proper. So now with that being said, touch on the next point that I made mention of earlier was dogma, right? And dogma, depending on it, its accuracy, it might or may be something undesirable that you might want to get rid of. But, touching on what I spoke in reference to as far as throwing out the baby with the bathwater and then propagating just things that are false, you have to find a middle ground. Like that's where, like the scriptures, they speak expressly about balance. In context is talking about, giving out just wages and things like that. But conceptually, we have to have balance in everything. So that middle ground or the balance would be, between propagating lies and throwing out the baby with the bathwater is a concept called reformation. Now, just in case, because I may mention a dogma, just in case you're not aware of the term dogma, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it up on the screen so you guys can look at it. But dogma is typically understood as a set of beliefs that are accepted. But I want to put on the screen how to read it so we can all ground terms and make sure we're on the same page, right? So it's on edamonline.com. You just bring this up, King.
Dogma, a settled opinion, a principle held as being firmly established. Century 1600. In plural, dogmata, from Latin, dogma, philosophical tenet, from Greek, dogma, genitive dogmatos, opinion, tenet, literally that which one thinks is true, from dokian, to seem good, think, from pi root, dek, to take, accept. regarded in the 17th century and the 18th century as a Greek word in English, but subsequently nativized.
Gone. So, as we read through this, dogma is classified as a settled opinion, a principle held as being firmly established. And it derives from the Greek word, which is dogmatos, which is an opinion or tenet. And it derives from the Greek word dokein, which means to seem or to think. And if some of y'all might have been around, but we went into a lesson concerning the Antichrist, quote unquote, doctrine, and their thing was docetism, which goes back to the root word of dokein, which means to seem or to think, right? But again, like all of these words are very important, and something that me and the brother Hurt always go over is going into these words, grounding the terms, and making sure you're able to set your foot in a steady foundation so you can know, okay, this is what this actually means, so that you don't build off of a false premise. Because understanding language and how words are understood and utilized and their etymological roots are really important for what we're going to go over tonight, but any other topic. I wanted to make sure I touched on that. But I'm going to go into this word for reformation that I mentioned. But before I move on, you got any points, King?
All praises.
God, all praises. So I'm going to pull up this word for reformation because I make mention of this as well. Then we're going to try to get ahead. God, you can read this right here, King.
God. Late 14th century, Reformation. Restoration, reestablishment, early 15th century. Improvement, alteration for the better. From Old French, reformation, and directly from Latin, reformationem. Nominative, reformatio, noun of action from past particle stem of reformare, to form again, change, transform, alter, from re, again, see re, plus formare, to form, see form.
God, all praise to the Most High. I appreciate it, King.
God.
So we see the meaning of reformation is improvement or alteration for the better. Now, the scriptures throughout the Bible, they speak expressly on this concept. There should be a myriad of passages that come to mind. But, we're going to touch on a few and then we're just going to move on, right? So first one's first is Romans, the 12th chapter. We're going to read verse 2.
Teach you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim.
God, all praise to the Most High. So with that being said, the text, it says to not be conformed to this world or age. And when you go into the language, real quick, let me pull this up, right? Because I have in the ESV, it says that by testing you may discern what is that will of God, what is good and acceptable. So that's in reference to, understanding what the Most High desires. Like when you see that terminology, the will of God, that equals what the Most High desires, right? Either his plan or what he desires. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at this word for conform right here, because we see that that word for perfection, that's dealing with being complete, right? Then it mentions acceptable, etc. And then at the top, it makes mention of us presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice. So this is something that we have to be actively doing, on a day-to-day basis physically. This is not just like, oh, in my mind, I'm presenting my body as a living sacrifice, but I'm not physically doing anything else or putting in any type of work. doesn't even make sense, right? But let's look at this word for conformed. We'll put it on the screen, and might be going to a king. So it's going to be G 4964, and it's suske matizo. It's a verb, and King, you could just read you can read outline of biblical usage and then the definition.
To conform oneself, i.e. one's mind and character, to another's pattern, fashions oneself according to. And the Strong's definition is from G4862 and a derivative of G4976, to fashion alike, i.e. conform to the same pattern, figuratively conform to, fashion self according to.
So this word means to fashion alike or pattern after something. Now let's look at the bottom, because the bottom it gives you passages that the word is using. So let's look at, matter of fact, let's just go to the passage. 1 Peter chapter 1, just 14 through 15.
As obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lust in your ignorance, but as he which hath called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation.
And I should have had it put up in the ESV, but it reads the same way. So that word for fashioning is the word conforming. So we are to pattern ourselves or conform our minds after our former ignorance. But as the Most High told us, we are to be holy as he's holy. And now that's in the Torah. That's a plethora of places. You can read that in the book of Leviticus 11, Leviticus 19, etc. Right? But before I move on, you got any points, King?
God.
All praise to the Most High. So now real quick, I want to address something in the title because I have, the latter clause in there, which is dead precedence. And so basically I'll let y'all know, like, the dead precedence part, it carries a manifold wisdom, right? Because a precedent, when you look it up for the definition, it means an example or a pattern. And so with that being said, I'm referencing both our dead patterns or our dead examples or works in disobedience toward the Most High, as well as the older examples of human deaths that brought atonement, just like the Messiah's death. So when you read that first part, it says Jesus died because of what? Oh, dead precedents. So these things we see in the scriptures as examples, and he did he played a similar role. Of course, him being greatest fulfillment example of it. But just like what we see in the Old Testament, so-called, we see in the so-called New Testament with him playing the role that he did, but also our particular works, our particular example, our former ignorance and lust of the flesh that we walked in, he died because of that.
You want the saints to push past your worst. White drop cocaine in our domains, they foot track the work. They hit the news and act removed from cook, crack, dispersed. And y'all grafted in with who? Book, chapter, verse. Christian Louboutins need Jerusalem mud on it. Meat so kosher, I can damn near taste the cud on it.